Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed. You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids.
I found this video searching online. Well, actually, I wasn't searching online. I was looking up like white supremacy, and I came across this video. I checked it out. This happened about a year ago. If I'm not mistaken, it was like February 24th, 21st, 2001, right after this guy took the White House. And actually, this is one of the first nominees of his presidency pushed by the Democratic Party. So I wanted to see who is this Rachel Levine and why is she advocating for street kids, aka black people, to get sex changes as children. Let's check this out.
American culture is now normalizing the idea that minors can be given hormones to prevent their biological development of their secondary sexual characteristics. Dr. Levine, you have supported both allowing minors to be given hormone blockers to prevent them from going through puberty, as well as surgical destruction of a minor's genitalia. Like surgical mutilation, hormonal interruption of puberty can permanently alter and prevent secondary sexual characteristics. The American College of Pediatricians reports that 80 to 95% of prepubertal children with gender dysphoria will experience resolution by late adolescence if not exposed to medical intervention and social affirmation. Dr. Levine, do you believe that minors are capable of making such a life-changing decision as changing one's sex?
Well, Senator, thank you for your interest in this question. Transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field.
That was totally crazy. This Dr. Rachel Levine is obviously out of his mind. He suffers from transvestism, which means dressing in the clothing of the opposite sex. It's distinct from transsexualism and homosexuality, but psychiatrists consider it paraphilia. When you look up paraphilia is categorized as the abnormal sexual desires typically involving extreme or dangerous activities like spanking, binding, and whipping. Some others focus on shoes, clothing, and specific groups of people. That's important. Specific groups of people, due to the fact that this Dr. Rachel Levine is pushing for street kids to get sex change. Like, that's what they need. Some of these kids need education and to eat and a roof over their head, but you want them to be the most common of paraphilia is pedophiles. That's the most common. And there's others, exhibitionist, fratinism, and voyeurism. You know, the exhibitionists who like to expose their genitals to strangers, fratinism, touching or rubbing against uncertain people, and voyeurism, watching people in private activities. But the pedophilia, that's the kicker. If you're a doctor and you're suffering from these things, why are they forcing you into society as you're normal instead of getting you help? That's white supremacy at its finest. That's the goal of white supremacy. Let's check out more.
With robust research and standards of care that have been developed. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of Health, I would look forward to working with you and your office and coming to your office and...
Hold up. Rachel Levine wants to come to Rand Paul's office for what? Rand Paul's a married man. He ain't with that. Let's get back.
Discussing the particulars of the standards of care for transgender medicine.
The specific question was about minors. Let's be a little more specific since you evaded the question. Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor. I would hope that you would have compassion for Kira Bell, who's a 23-year-old girl who was confused with her identity. At 14, she read on the internet about something about transsexual. She thought, well, maybe that's what I am. She ended up getting these puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. She had her breasts amputated. But here's what ultimately she says now. And this is a very insightful decision from someone who made a mistake but was led to believe this was a good thing by the medical community. I made a brash decision as a teenager, as a lot of teenagers do, trying to find confidence and happiness, except now the rest of my life will be negatively affected, she said, adding that the medicalized gender transitioning was a very temporary, superficial fix for a very complex identity issue. What I'm alarmed at is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia. For most of our history, we believe that minors don't have full rights and the parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question.
Before I turn it over to Senator Murphy, I do want to say, Dr. Levine, I wanted to say I appreciated your thoughtful and medically informed response to Senator Paul's questions earlier in the hearing. It is really critical to me that our nominees be treated with respect and that our questions focus on their qualifications and the work ahead of us, rather than on ideological and harmful misrepresentations like those we heard from Senator Paul earlier. And I will focus on that as chair of this committee. So thank you again for your response.
Rachel Levine didn't answer any of these questions. Actually, what Rachel Levine did was give the same answer to every question, because for some reason, who's this person at the end that was capping for her, or him, or whatever? Senator Patty Murphy, the Democrat from Washington. It's always Democrats who supposedly they're pushing for social change, but none of this social change ever helps Black people. Now Rachel Levine is the general. Other countries looking at us like we're clowns. I'm not even gonna group myself with us, but they're looking at them as if they're clowns. But I guess that's what you voted for. You voted for change. Kind of like the racist guy. That way you know who you stood, what he stood at. These people, this is racism politics, white supremacy at its finest.